part of it. All right. But has the market priced in the effect? Okay. So we're going to go over what to watch for this week. All right. But let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for March 2nd, 2020. Just a couple minutes here before the Qs and SPY close. All right. And coming into this week, we were watching last week's hourly downtrend. Okay, actually got going right at the start of the week here. Right, as you recall, coming into Monday, bearish bias. All right, as we continued lower, watching these higher lows to see when would this hourly downtrend end. So coming into today, I thought it was pretty clear where the line in the sand was. We went over it each time that it basically set up this way over the high there as it creates the pivot. Pivot I thought was very useful in the same way that on the way up when the higher low was broken, kind of gave us a nice signal there that the market was weakening, to expect to move lower. How much lower, right, is then the next question. And so as we watched it come in, right, we had this gap down on Friday. We put in the pivot. Over the pivot, we lose the bearish bias. And so what happened as we came in today, right? We broke out over it, actually gapped up a little bit over it. So bearish bias ends. So that's trend following kind of at its most simple. And it's a good idea, I think, to keep it simple. Helps to kind of make the read consistent and not overly complicated there. And so coming into today, neutral, once it broke, we had a neutral bias. The downtrend on the hourly was broken. So pretty neutral this morning. And, that kind of signal to the end of the selling ended up giving us some follow through, especially here into the afternoon. Now, as I was kind of preparing for the market bias in the last 30 minutes here, the signal here was going to be over today's high. We are going to be bullish. Now, before the end of the day here, we got this rally. So going into tomorrow, we are already going to be bullish. Okay, you can see it attempted to roll over, set up kind of a double top here on the Qs. Here's what it looks like on the SPY, right? And then negating that. Not a bad idea to take a look at the IWM. We did notice today that it was showing a little bit of relative weakness there, but the IWM kind of popping up as well. So participating a little bit more here in the afternoon. Okay, so going into tomorrow, we will be bullish, expecting that if we get a drop, the sell-offs to get bought in this hourly to transition. Now we are in the kind of early stages of that hourly transition, and we do have a lot of potential for news, not only kind of potential positive news from the Fed or any other source, but also potential for disappointment if the news is not what the market is looking for. So, that is always good to be aware of, if that kind of makes an impact on the chart here, though, we will see it. Okay, so we will be bullish going into tomorrow, but before the end of the week, I think we will get a daily sell setup. Unless this hourly uptrend fails right away, okay, and that could happen tomorrow, it could happen the day after. We try to move up, we put in a higher low, and then we're not able to make a higher high, and then we fail back down. That could happen tomorrow. But what I think will happen before the end of the week is that we'll get a daily sell setup. And then that daily sell setup will kind of be our next inflection point that we can anticipate, barring any kind of, momentum kind of move here, or rejection, or something else comes out, or some other thing, comes in to kind of move the market quickly here. If we continue along the path that we've started here, I expect to grind higher, and then we'll get a daily sell setup, and then that will be kind of the next inflection point. The first one that we really got here was this morning. And that clearing over that hourly sell setup, right, was our signal that selling is going to pause here. Okay, so pretty important turning point here that we got just at the end of the day here as we now go into a bullish bias going into tomorrow. Okay, so I expect that we should still get some decent gaps this week. I thought today was pretty quiet. That's why the focus is the market today. I didn't have any calls for the room here. There were a couple things that were given as ideas in the afternoon. So if you're in the room, you might have taken advantage of those. They were pretty nice. They were the TEN and the VIRT. So if you like to check those out, you can. But since they weren't, I didn't play them. I didn't call them for the room, and so I just gave it to you if you thought they looked good, if they were interesting, and those were the only two, one short and one long. So it was a pretty quiet day, I thought, today, even though kind of quiet as far as trades and gaps. That what we got here is a pretty important kind of start to the week. Okay, so we'll see if this continues that grind higher, and then if it does, the next thing that we'll be watching for is that daily sell setup. Okay, so and when that comes up, I will definitely go over it. We'll talk about the way that it's set up, the price that will negate it or continue the follow through. So we'll deal with that when it comes, but just to summarize here, going into tomorrow, we're going to be following this recently formed hourly uptrend, okay, to see how much it wants to rally back, okay, and then just make sure that you stay nimble as we could be getting other events and announcements this week that will move the market. All right, so hopefully, just even through the last couple weeks, if there's anything that you took away from it was kind of the usefulness of following the trend. Okay, the way that now not necessarily gonna pick the bottom or pick the bottom or pick the top, but even just having the right market bias will keep you on the right side of the market most of the time. I thought there was a very, very kind of savvy call from Sammy on Friday, kind of calling the bottom as we had this extended gap down, and we even had a little bit of a flush at the open before the bounce. So, impressive as always. But if we're just following the trend, I think last week was a pretty easy read throughout the week. Okay. All right. So I hope you did well today. If not, at least took it easy. All right. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll see what the rest of the week brings us. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good evening.